Hi, everybody. How are you doing? My name's Spencer, and I am a best ball draft addict. I've been on a journey this year to max out the baseball contest on Underdog. And specifically, right now, I am focusing on the Dinger contest, which is Underdog's main fantasy baseball contest that they have. I wanted to record this video because as of this point, I am 50 drafts completed. So it's a tournament that's a max of 150 entries. So I'm one third of the way completed. Now, this tournament's going to run until it fills. That might go all the way till opening day. So that's about 2 months from today exactly. So I've got to stretch my 100 entries from now to the end of the year because I want to make sure that I'm drafting some teams on the last day before it closes. Just because as you move along, information is going to change. There's a lot of differences in the drafts, even from a day to day, let alone a month to month basis. So things are going to change a lot in the next 2 months. But right now, through the month of January, I am 50 drafts in, like I said, and I wanted to go through and share my takes, my player takes, my team takes, let you guys see the stacks that I've been doing, and just kind of talk about my thoughts on everything. So, first off, my draft season starts at the beginning of November, and I draft gladiators on NFBC almost every night that they have a fast draft that fills. I try to get in it. I'd strictly for myself stay away from slow drafts and primarily do fast drafts on almost every platform. Now, I'll make an exception occasionally for slow drafts because you can think slow drafts out. And I'm going to be showing you guys a sheet here in a little bit that definitely is easier to use correctly whenever you're doing slow drafts. But I'm a draft addict and I like to draft. So I click on drafts and join and do that almost every day, if not every day. So, first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to bring up Underdog and I'm going to show you guys, in case you don't know, where to go to look at your player shares. All right. So, first thing, as I pull up this here, one moment, let's add this in. Okay. So, on Underdog, when you're on the website or if you're on your phone, you've got the lobby. You can go to completed. Once you're at completed, you'll see there are different categories. Now, way too early, this was the contest that was called the bullpen. I maxed that out and did 150 entries. I'm not going to go through all of these entries here, but just to kind of show you my top players, Dalton Varsho, I was all in. I was getting him super late. Royce Lewis, super late. Ivan Herrera, super late. And you see Chris Sale and Jacob deGrom as my two highest drafted pitchers. Now, back to drafts completed. Let me go back here to the regular MLB season, which is the platform that started with the Dinger. And you see I have done 20 bunts, 20 bunt twos, and I'm currently 6 entries into the bunt 3. Now, these are 20 entry max tournaments. Whenever you go to exposure and you look at your exposures, you see it's going to filter them through all of the different tournaments, but you can go over here to the left and say tournaments only, the Dinger, apply, and you can see specifically your tournament shares for that specific kind of tournament, whatever it is. So here are my 50 shares, my 50 teams of the Dinger. Now, we're not going to go through everything right here, but I just wanted to show you guys where this can be found. Now, the same place, you see where it says email exposure CSV. If you click on this, which I've already done today, and you can only do once a day, if you click on that, it will send you an email with your exposure for everything. Now, I am in the Bubba and the Bloom Discord, and over there on their Best Ball channel, there is a guy who goes by the username Reducing Juice that shared for free a spreadsheet that he's made that is phenomenal. That is a shares breakdown spreadsheet, and that's what I want to go through with you guys. So let me go ahead and get that pulled up here. All right. Here we go, everyone. Let me try this view here. All right. That's not too bad. Let's do this. Let's see. I was going to try to take this little overlay off so that that's not in the way. Let's just go back to this view here. There we go. Found it. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. So back to this. Now, the first thing that you'll do on this sheet, and he does have instructions. So if anyone is a member of the Bubba and the Bloom Discord, which is an absolutely great duo of fantasy baseball experts, if you don't know Bubba and the Bloom, I could not suggest their podcast more. They're awesome guys, great fantasy analysts, amazing content they're putting out all of the time, not only for free for everyone on YouTube or through their podcast, but also on Discord and on Patreon. They've got exclusive content there that's really great. So when you follow the instructions and you import that CSV, which I selected just my dingers from that, then the first thing that I'm going to do is show you guys the build overview. So the build overview here, what you're looking at, you can see through each round, this is how often I take each position in each round. So as you see right from the top, I don't ever take pitching in round one. I almost always take outfield, but I will take some infield every once in a while. That's probably Bobby Witt. And then once you hit round two, I am willing to jump in and take Skubal or Skeens. So you see 44% with those guys, or Crochet. Infield 26, because I'm more willing to jump into infield in round two. Ellie, Vlad Jr., etc. And then, of course, outfielders are going to always be something to keep an eye on. Now, once you hit round three, you see I'm still hitting outfield very hard here early. So all of these early rounds, you see how often I'm taking outfield. And then in round six, that's usually where I jump back into pitcher. Sometimes I'm still staying away from infield for the most part. You see round seven is the most likely time that I'm jumping into infield. And then as we go, it's interesting, round 10, 72% of the time I take a pitcher, and I'm pretty much never looking at outfield in round 10, 6% of the time. Then we get pretty even across the board. And then as we go to close out my drafts, you see I'm almost always, as you move along, going to increase infield as we go, because there's so many infielders that I like late that it's just so easy to pick those guys. That's why the majority of the time you see that's what I'm doing in drafts. And the outfield, not very often. You see, I'm not going to have a lot of late outfield shares of the guys that are from round 14 on, because I'm primarily done by the time we get to round 13. And then the build types. So this is a very interesting thing. So build types, and just in case you don't know, the first number is pitcher. As you see, the second number is infield, and the third number is outfield. So that's how we will always refer to builds. Now, my most popular build by far is 776. So 776, the reason why I like to do this more than anything else is because 776 builds, I believe, give me the best chance for the playoff weeks to continue advancing and moving teams along in the playoffs. Now, the reasoning behind that is because the extra pitcher that you get with the seventh pitcher in the playoffs, pitching can matter more important than even in the regular season. Because, everyone's going to have good hitters that advance. That's just the thing. You're going against other good hitting teams. But pitching is the most volatile position in fantasy baseball. Guys get hurt all the time. There are some years where almost half of every pitcher that's out there drafted is hurt at some point in the season. And so as a drafter, whenever it's a draft and hold, you have to know this ahead of time and you have to plan for the chaos. Expect the unexpected. So you're going to have pitchers that underperform. You're going to have pitchers that get hurt. It's just going to happen. So it's just about playing the numbers game and the odds. So if I'm drafting 7 pitchers, I know that I'm probably only going to have 5 of them in the playoffs. But if I'm drafting 6, I may only have 4. Well, if I only have 4 and 3 of them have to start every week, I'm really giving myself a short leash for bad starts, because you're going to have to factor in scoring points each week in the playoffs. Playoffs are 2-week advancement periods. You have the first week, the second week, and then the 2 weeks together, and then that's going to give you your score to move on. So this is the thought process behind taking 7 pitchers compared to 6. But you will see 6 pitcher builds at 6-7-7 is something that I traditionally have done in the past a lot. But this time I do about a quarter of the time in the dingers, which I feel is a good number. You see 8-6-6, that's at 4%. I actually expected that to be higher. And then this down here, this other 10%, that's probably like 8-7-5s. So I do like to do the 8-7-5s, where when I really like my outfield and I have 5 very strong outfield. So I bet you that all of these others are 8-7-5 builds. And you see that's 10% of the time. Now over here on this column, this shows each team and what my exposure is to each team. And then you can see if I had just 1 player, that's solo. If I have 2 players from a team, that's a pair. And if I have 3 or more, that's a stack. So right away, I see, man, I don't like the Diamondbacks, apparently. I'm going through this with you guys for the first time. I saved looking at this to do this on the stream. I have looked over on Underdog, but I have not looked at this sheet, so this is going to be very interesting. I see I'm very in on Boston. I knew that I was. Baltimore, 20%. I like to see that. Atlanta, I know I'm in on Atlanta quite a bit. I'm going to focus on these stacks right now, the pairs and stacks. So you see, I'm really in on Boston's pairs and stacks. I see with the Rockies, I pair a lot, but I rarely stack. That sounds about right. Getting like a Doyle and a Tovar or a Goodman and a Beck, but not always all of them together. I would say that's probably a pretty smart decision with the Rockies. You see, White Sox, I'm not stacking that very often, although I have done it. I have done these first 50 drafts not focusing on stacks. I'm going to actually talk about that for a second. Through my first 50 drafts, what I wanted to do, because I had a plan going into the contest for my idea for the first 50, the second 50, and the last 50. So the first 50, what I wanted to do was just draft teams the way I've been drafting them. Since I've already done 150 bullpens, I wanted to just keep the ball rolling with my strategies, the players that I'm looking at. This is something that jumps out to me. Look at this. I have a 42% exposure share to the Cardinals, but 0 stacks. That I want to change. That's for sure. I knew that Toronto was going to be one of my bigger ones because I know I stack Toronto a lot, but ultimately it's 10%. So through my next 50 drafts, I am going to focus on stacking more. So moving forward in the live streams that you see me do, and then on the drafts I'll be doing on my own, I am going to focus on stacking more teams. I've talked about stacking a lot. I do think it's important. Obviously, as you see here, it's not a main priority or focus of mine. I let it happen naturally. But these next 50 drafts, I am going to try to force the issue and build some stacks in. Now, does that mean multiple teams stacked together on the same roster? Not necessarily. I may try to stack specific teams. I may try to mix in a couple of them together. We'll see how that goes, but it is going to be a focus point moving forward for me. And then the last 50 drafts, when I get there, my goal is, because things are going to be changed a lot by then, my goal is to draft those looking at the players that I don't have much of, the pairings I don't have much of, and try to really hone in on the final 50 drafts of doing unique builds that are different than what I've done. And that's going to happen naturally based off the ADP changes that happen once we get into the month of March, because that's going to be the Wild West. It's going to get crazy in March, guys. I'm telling you. Once we get the WBC going, oh man, think about some of these guys. If they start killing it in the WBC, their value is going to skyrocket. Now, the next tab that I wanted to show you guys here is the exposure tab. Now, on this tab, you will see though this is overall right here on the left. This right here is my pitcher shares. So let you guys see from the top. And I'm gonna go through in a minute this here that says War Room ADP. So we're not going through these specifically. We're going to do that in the War Room ADP. But you see Chris Sale, Yuri Perez, Bubba Chandler, Jacob deGrom, all around the 30, Schwellenbach, Imai, all around the 30% mark this year, with having pitchers that I think good pitching teams, as I've talked about. And these are all pitchers that I'm very big in on. At hitting, as we talked about, I am almost all of these top guys you'll see are almost all end of the draft picks. And you can see my ADP here. So I spend up a little bit on Wilson. He's moved. This is an example of Wilson Contreras was going back in the bullpens when we started in the beginning of December. He was going up even in round 20 in drafts. And you see now his ADP is up to 167 where I have to take him. Okamoto, Royce Lewis, Alec Boehm. Shea Langoliers is one of my higher drafted guys that I like to take a lot. That's almost at 20%. William Contreras, I see that's one of my higher ADPs at 101. But the highest, as you'll see, is Vinny Pasquantino at 80. So actually, there's Vlad Jr. at 12% in round 2. But Vinny P is a lot of times when I push infield, or even if I don't, he's someone that I like to look at that ADP of 80. All right, and then outfield. So Dalton Varsho continues to be my number one outfielder with my personal ADP of 146.4. Now, a lot of the streams that we've done recently and even drafts I've been in, he's been moving up into the 130s or 120s. So I will tell you guys, as the dinger season moves along, you will see, I highly doubt that Varsho finishes the year as my highest exposure for outfield in the dinger, because I'm going to naturally pick him less since I've been spending the first 2 months drafting him at pick 150. As he moves up, I'm going to be looking at other targets. So this number will naturally go down. You see, I'm not afraid to go after Mike Trout. Not afraid at all. 26%, 1 out of 4 drafts. I'll add Mike Trout to it. And then how lucky am I? Look at this. Shohei Ohtani at 1.1, I have 22% of. So through 50 drafts, I have got lucky enough to get the number one pick 22% of the time. I see right here, Juan Soto, 12% of the time. So between the two, 34% of my drafts, I'm getting the one or the up, because that's some really good luck that I feel I've had getting that much Ohtani. Now, you see Judge nowhere to be found on this. That's because I've not been getting pick number 2 hardly at all. Let's go ahead and go down and find Judge. He's going to be down here low. I'm looking at there it is, 6%. So I've only got the pick number 2 at 6%, because so far how I've drafted is, if I get pick number 1, I take Ohtani. If I get pick number 2, I take Aaron Judge. And if I get pick number 3, I take Juan Soto. And I don't deviate from that unless the draft forces me to, which it hasn't yet. So I will say, as I get into the final 50, so not the next 50, but when I get to the final 50, if I still am getting pick 1s and I still have that low of Aaron Judge shares, then I'm going to force change things and start taking Judge more, because I do feel that Judge and Ohtani are not so far away in the 1-2 that I should never take Judge over Ohtani. It's just that while I'm building my base of shares and my lineups, I want to lock in as many Ohtani as I can through the first 100. And we'll see. We'll just see how the judge shares go. But that's just the luck of the draw right there, is all that is. Now, we're going to get into a little bit more specifics. So this tab I absolutely love. It's called War Room ADP. And on this tab here, you see Underdog's ADP and then my exposures right here. And then here's my ADP with, again, the same exposures. We're not going to focus on this over here, my ADP, which if anyone wants to look at that as we go, they can. But I'm going to be looking over here at the Underdog ADP. So, and this is fully updated. This is as of today. Right now, well, technically last night, because that's when I finished my 50th. So right here, again, you see how lucky I am. 22% of the time, 6% of the time, 12% of the time. And I'm not afraid to take Ronald Acuna every time that I have pick 4, because this is shocking to me. So I didn't realize that I was 0% on Corbin Carroll. This is something that I'm going to do, and I'm going to make a little note of right now as we go. I'm going to note a couple guys that I need to make sure I get shares of along the way. Corbin Carroll's definitely one, because I love Schwarber. I'm surprised I only have 8%. I hope to get more of that. That's, again, just a luck of the draft thing, because I'll take Schwarber before Carroll, but I'm going to have to force some Carroll teams in there because I don't want to have 0% of Corbin Carroll. Bobby Witt, that's the rare time that I take an infield in the first round, again, because you see, look at a pick 11, my ADP 11, just a 2% share from Jose Ramirez. I did that on the stream last night. And Ellie De La Cruz with my ADP at 12.9. So that hits round 2 for my ADP almost. And that's 10% of the time. So 10% Tucker, 10% Tatis. Where was Kyle Tucker? Right here. Yeah, 10% Kyle Tucker. So I really like this first round in my shares. I just feel, again, extremely lucky. I've gotten so much Ohtani. Now, once we hit round 2, this is where things get interesting. So, again, I'm very surprised to see I have no Jordan and 2% James. So this is a big thing. You guys will see the guys that I like to pick here. For me, this is so interesting in the people that I see that I don't pick, because I don't have a big reason as to why I don't pick Jordan, other than obviously I'm not that attracted to him compared to these other names. Jordan coming off of a unhealthy year. I don't have a ton of faith in this health moving forward. I do have a ton of faith in his bat and his skills. I do think that part's legit, but I've been obviously scared enough to stay away. And James Wood, that I want to increase. I'm going to make a little note. I want to increase my round 2 James Wood, because right here I'm taking Skubal and Vlad Jr. a lot. I mix Gunnar in. I see I don't have a ton of Kurtz. Lindor, these are probably mostly going to be shares with Juan Soto. Let's find out real quick. So this is the pair tab on this. This is what I was saying works really good if you are doing slow drafts. So this look at this. I can put Juan Soto in. Here is everyone that I've paired with Juan Soto. So these are all my Juan Soto teams. You can see immediately right here, Lindor, I have 3 pairs, Simeon 4, because here's Lubob 2 over here. I do like to try to stack, and that's out of a total 6 teams. And if I go and I type Lindor, we can see how often I actually do that. There it is. So I've drafted Lindor 4 times, but 3 of the 4 of them, he's been paired with Soto. So that's amazing. So this right here is how many times that the percent pair that of my Juan Soto teams that Lindor's been paired with, 50. This is how the percent time of my Lindor teams that have been paired with Soto. So that's what these 2 numbers are. So this tab on this sheet is incredible, and I love that. Reducing Juice, you are awesome, my man. All right, so as we move along here, you'll see I'm all in on grabbing Skeens 2 and Crochet. Crochet with the latest ADP. So over here, I'm going to go see what my ADP is for Crochet. Where he is. So my ADP is 23.7. His actual ADP is 26.8. So I make sure that I grab him, but he's falling. That's That's a fall ADP. All of these pitchers' ADPs have been falling. So I can take them less and still get them later and later. Again, as we move along here, I'm pretty much even across the board, close to the 6 to 8% on all these guys. I'm going to notice the lower ones. So Churio, 4%, Pete Crow, 4%, Junior Caminero, 4%. There's nothing against these guys. It's just young guys that versus some of the other names I've not been going after. Riley Green, I really like. There's a 14% there. You see Wyatt Langford. Arozarena is probably mostly paired with Julio. Let's check that out real quick. Julio Rodriguez. Randy Arozarena. So, yeah, I've taken Julio 3 times and Randy 2 of those 3. You go back over here. Yep, just wanted to make sure that was still showing right. All right. Bellinger, I've been taking more recently since he signed with the Yankees. You see, I don't have a lot of Marte. That comes along with not taking much Corbin Carroll. I need to get Bryce Harper more. I've been staying away from him, probably to my own detriment, because you see, I like to take Taylor Ward here, Ian Happ, George Springer. Big theme being outfielders right here. I like to take a lot of these outfielders around this spot. As we noticed earlier when we were looking at my build overview, right here in these rounds, this is where we're looking at. I'm primarily taking outfield, which is why I don't have many of these infielders. Move along. Okay, here's one. Jazz, 0%. Let's make a note of that. I'd like to add Jazz into some Aaron Judge teams, but I've obviously not been getting Aaron Judge much. So therefore, no Jazz. No Perdomo. That's part of, again, having no Corbin Carroll. I'm not looking at getting the Diamondbacks. Zach Neto. That's a part of, look at outfield again right here. Jose Altuve, Jurickson Profar, Byron Buxton. 20% of Hunter Brown. 10% Brian Wu. Here's 26% Mike Trout right here. So again, Zach Neto, he's just getting left out of the fold because I'm not pairing Trout and Neto together, and I'm just not looking at infield. But Zach Neto could be one that I really regret missing out on. Let me make a note about Neto. All right, next up as we move along here. Big fan of Ben Rice. I think he could be a monster this year. 0 Freddie Peralta. 0 Willie Adames, 2% Bregman, 0 Anthony Santander. I thought that I had Santander on some Blue Jays stacks, but as you saw with me doing the bunts and all of the bullpens, so I've done 150 bullpens, 20 bunts, 20 bunt twos. I've done 40 gladiators. So I've already done, and then 50 dingers. So I've already done almost 300 drafts. So this is why this review is really good, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I've drafted that guy, but no, I have not in the dingers, not in the contest that matters the most here. Now, Spencer Strider's one I've been staying away from on purpose. I've been talking about that. I will dip back into him if I like what I see in spring training. I don't care if I have to pay a little bit of a higher ADP if he looks good and his velo's increased in spring. Right now, I just am not taking the jump in on Strider. Look right here, Jacob deGrom, 28%. This is why. Look at these pitching names around him. Max Fried, Jesus Luzardo, Jacob deGrom, Blake Snell, all of these guys that I'm taking. And then right before, Chris Sale, my number 1 pitcher, there he is at 34%. So deGrom, Sale, as we talked, 2 of my big guys there. We go back over to exposure. That's my number 1 and my number 4. They're risky. Yep. They're old. Yep. But whenever they're on and they're healthy, I think that they could be the 4th and 5th best pitchers in baseball behind the big 3. I'm in on Marcy, William Contreras right here. You see, I do like to mix them in. I mentioned William earlier. I like to get some Brewer stacks. Let's go back over to that build overview and see what I've actually done. I say this, and look, 0% Brewer stacks. I have pairs, but no stacks. So I'm going to make a little note here, Brewers stacks. I need some Brewers stacks in my life moving forward. Come back over here. This is something that I see over here. There he is, Mackenzie Gore. We talked about him on the stream last night. I will be moving this number up. I will be adding more Mackenzie Gore, but you see Kyle Bradish I like to take here. Eugenio, even though he's still a free agent, I'm dipping in there because this is the spot where I like to go ahead and start getting some infield. Did I go right past Vinny P? I did. There he was up there. I'm surprised I'm at 10% Corey Seager. I feel that's because of Ranger stacks. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, 4% pairs. So I've not got a lot of Ranger stacks, and I am surprised that could be a lesser number for me than 10% with Corey Seager. Moving forward, I took Andy Pages last night. That's going to be a rare one, but I'll do that on some Dodgers stacks moving forward. All right, so here back to zero Yandy. Part of having not a lot of junior Caminero, but I need to take some Yandy. Today I did my first draft of the new tournament, the Eliminator, and I took Yandy on that. It's a bit of a different strategy. It's more of a floor strategy and scoring points week to week. From an upside standpoint, I don't see Yandy as a big upside play, obviously. I've been staying away from Framber. We'll review that again once he signs with someone. If not, I'm just staying away. I've been staying away from Zach Wheeler. I feel like I need to mix him in. Mizorowski is a big one I'm going to make a note on. So part of the Brewers stacks, I'm not taking any Mizorowski. That needs to change. He's too good for me to have zero of. Cedane Rafaela, I knew I was staying away from him, but I thought I had drafted him a couple times. I'm wrong. Langoliers I like a lot. You see Nolan McLean. I love Nolan McLean. This is why I don't have any Mizorowski, because anytime that I'm picking right here and I want a young pitcher, I take Nolan McLean. And then I like Schwellenbach a ton. 28%, obviously. What was that again? That was, that has to be one of the top. Sorry about that there. Yeah, he was tied for fourth as well. Moving on along, Trent Grisham, I've been staying away. This could, again, when I start getting the luck of some Aaron Judge teams, I'll add some Grisham in to some Aaron Judge teams. Otherwise, I'm not really looking at adding Grisham because I don't feel that the odds of him doing what he did last year, I feel like that was just like a Brady Anderson type of 1 year power surge, but we'll see in the long run if I'm right or wrong there. We're hitting a lot of my other fades. You see one of my big hits here, Yuri Perez. I absolutely love Yuri. I take him 32% of the time. Here are a big group of fades. Almost no Cowser. Chase Burns, 0. That's another one I'm going to make a note. Chase Burns and Mizorowski, they are two good young pitchers, and I should not have 0. I need to mix some shares in. I stay away from TJ Friedel here because I'm really not looking at outfield in this range. As you see, Jason Dominguez, now Doyle I like, but it's really once we hit here at this 135, 137, this 120s range, I'm just not looking at outfield. You see, I'm taking the infield and pitchers here. I'll dip back into outfield with Brenton Doyle, Varsho, Jung-Hoo Lee. I'm definitely not afraid of the Alcantara. I made a point to Duggar last night about taking Woodruff, and here I see I've taken none. I need to add him in. That's part of the Brewers thing that I'll be focusing on, getting more Brewers. Simeon, Mets stack, as I talked about, but I at 16%. I'm not afraid to take Simeon. Michael King is the guy I like to shoot for the upside over the solidity of Luis Castillo. Murakami, I've been drafting him more ever since talking with the Stacking Dingers guys. Trevor Story's part of the Boston stack, plus I'm not afraid to take him. Bubba Chandler I love. You see here right at 146 is another big one that I like to take a lot. Let's see what my own personal ADP is on him. Where's Bubba Chandler over here on this side? He's got to be up here a little bit higher. Bubba, where are you at? 140. And his ADP is 146. So I'm willing to reach up 6 spots higher on Bubba to go ahead and grab him most of the time. I see I've not taken much Hunter Goodman here. I was drafting him a lot more early, but I've been staying away from him in the dinger, obviously. This is not consciously. This is just the way that it's happened. Again, I've been just trying to draft based off of how my feel and the players that I like and not worrying about shares. And that's what this process is about. Surprised I have no Westberg, and he's not mixed into any Orioles teams. But again, I've not been focusing on that. Do I have any Orioles stacks 4%? Need to get more of that moving forward because the Orioles could be an amazing team. Here we hit a big pocket of popular picks of mine. Ranger Suarez, Tetsuya Imai, Wilson Contreras being a big one. Look at that number, 34%. I definitely am not afraid to take Wilson Contreras. I think he can be a monster in Boston. And at this ADP, and I'm looking at infield here, you see, I've only taken Connor Griffin 2%. So that 2% means one time. So I've taken Connor Griffin one time in the dinger. I do want to get more shares of him moving forward. I know that one share I took was in one of our live streams as well. I need to let me go back up to Oneil Cruz. Where was Oneil Cruz? Oneil Cruz, I've taken 4%, so twice. I need to start taking Oneil Cruz and just the upside of taking him with Connor Griffin more often moving forward. Where were we at? Sorry about all that movement, guys. Let me find where we're at. Here we go. All right. Here's a one we talked about on the stream. I've taken no Rodon. I thought he was supposed to be out longer, like the first 2 or 3 months of the season. If he could be pitching in spring training and might only miss the first month of the season, I need to be getting some Rodon in my life. Jack Flaherty, I'm surprised to see 0% of him, but there it is. Marcell Ozuna, I'm not surprised. I know I've been staying away from him. I've said I'm afraid of the Nelson Cruz cliff that we could have from Marcell Ozuna. 16% Edward Cabrera. I've loved him since he got traded. I liked him anyway, but loved him a lot more since he got traded. Ramon Laureano, 0%. That's another one I just don't trust a lot of what he did last year. But I could be wrong. I've taken him some of my other smaller in some Padres builds and some others, but not in this. Nick Castellanos, I'm staying away from on purpose. I've forced myself to take DeLauder a couple times after the result of talking about it on the stream with Blake. Garrett Cole, I did not taken any Carlos Rodon, but I've taken 12% of Garrett Cole. That number should be 6% each. So moving forward, I need to correct that because Garrett Cole could be good, but he may not, and he could truly miss half the year. Who knows? I stay away from Kikuchi. Merrill Kelly is someone I take, you see, almost all the time down here versus these pitchers. I really like Manzardo. Big 0 on Chandler Simpson. I've made my thoughts known on him. I just don't want someone who's going to have no power whatsoever. Like, at least, let's go back up here to Steve Kwan. Steve Kwan, I've taken twice now to get up to 4% because at least Steve Kwan, even with a much higher ADP, at least he's got some pop in his bat, and he's a good hitter who's a great defender, going to play every day. I can get on board with drafting him more, but Chandler Simpson, I just can't do it. Same with Xavier Edwards and guys like him. It's Billy Hamilton syndrome. I've had too many years of taking guys like him and D Gordon and just getting burned by these type of players, and I'm just over it. The speed only guys, especially in this format. One guy I'm not afraid of, and I'm never afraid to take, is new Japanese imports, and Kazuma Okamoto. I love when he signed with Toronto, and I obviously am not afraid to show that love, taking him at 34%. He also helps with as a late piece with those Toronto stacks. I like trying to stack the Reds in. Let's see what I've done actually with the Reds. So I have 4%. I want to get 10% pairs, 4% stacks. I definitely want to move that number up, stack more Reds, because I really like a lot of the late Reds pieces. I've just not done it a lot, obviously. I need to put a focus on that. Mitch Keller, and I've been staying away from Adley. That could be wrong because he's obviously a buy low candidate. You see, I will take Augustin Ramirez. That's because versus here, that's a stack piece with taking a Marlin or two before. I've become a Boyd boy, as we see 16% of the time. I'm taking Boyd down here. There's Bubic at 12. Last night I was talking about between Bubic or Boyd. I ended up going Bubic. That was the right call looking at this. I've moved Willie Castro into my life since he signed with the Rockies. I like that. I see McClanahan at 2%. That means one share of him at Sheehan. I thought I had more of these guys, but it's other contests. Let me make a note of that. McClanahan and Sheehan, a couple of hands who I need to draft more of. Moving forward. Here's a big piece like you saw. Ivan Herrera, 218.5 is his ADP, and I'll take that 36% of the time. 16% Max Muncy. So we're getting down here low. So you're going to just sort of see the standouts of the people that I'm clicking most often. Muncy, Jorge Polanco, Met stacks, I'm sure. Royce Lewis, I'll take him and Ivan all the time down here. I don't care about any sort of injury risk. Their upside is so well worth it to me. Alec Boehm, I look as one of the most consistent, reliable bats that you can find down here who works for stacks or non-stacks. Look at this big group of guys that I'm taking none of. Burleson, I like to mix Burleson in late. I've done Ashcraft a few times. I see I've gotten Weatherholt twice. Was one Connor Griffin, two Weatherholts. Where is McGonigal? Two McGonigals. So two McGonigals, two Weatherholts, one Connor Griffin, and I like Connor Griffin the most, and I have the least of him. But you see, I don't want a bunch of these guys. I definitely don't want over 10% of these rookies, but I do want some teams with them on it. That is for sure, especially out of the 150. I'm into Miguel Vargas as a late White Sox piece or just a nice little pick on his own here. I added Real Muto into a Phillies stack since he signed the other day. Oh, I like Robbie Snelling late. I was talking about how a lot of these later pitchers, I need to open my mind to taking some of these guys. I'm normally, as we talked about, filled by here. You see, again, I'm taking some pitchers late, as you see at the end, but it's a lot of these same guys that I already have gone past, and it's not these lower players. Some of the lower ones down here, I have Snelling. There's a Jared Jones. I've done that one time. I've taken two Bryce Eldridge, probably on some Devers teams. One Benintendi. I know that was a White Sox team. And then I think that's it. Oh, I took one Luis Garcia of the Nationals on a James Wood stack. Here's a Tommy Edman on a Dodgers stack. And that's the extent of it, guys. So this sheet, again, you can find for free in the Best Ball Discord section of the Bubba and the Bloom channel, which you can find on YouTube. They are awesome. Reducing Juice is who made this sheet. Reducing Juice, that is phenomenal. I love it. One last thing before I hop off here. So just to review this again. So when you're in a draft, I can say I have Ohtani. And then I take that Ohtani at one, and I'm wondering, like, man, who do I pair with Ohtani a lot? Well, I can go look again, and I can see specifically my Ohtani pairs. So you see I've done Muncy 6 times. Will Smith. These, you can see the stack pieces here with the little black. So Will Smith, Mookie Betts, Teoscar, Andy Pages twice, Freddie Freeman once. So I only have one Freddie Freeman, one Tommy Edman. There's one Glass now, 2 Roki Sasaki's. Ugh, I wish I had one or none. Blake Snell 2, Yamamoto 2. But yeah, so this is just so awesome, guys. I love this sheet. Again, this is really useful for slow drafts. Although for fast drafts, it definitely can still be done. I did it with the bullpens, with my final 50 bullpens. I used this sheet several times whenever I was actually sitting at home. Whenever I draft, a lot of times I draft because I'm drafting so much. A lot of times I'll draft just whenever I can on my phone. but sometimes I will actually spend the time to sit and draft on my computer. And whenever I do, and I can pull up this sheet, it's a great way to build lineups. So, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this dive into my player shares. If you have any questions, comments, you think that I overdraft someone, which I'm sure that I do, someone that you're like, oh man, I see you have none of him, you need to draft some more. Just any thoughts. You think you like the people that I'm doing? You think I'm an idiot? Well, you just let me know in the comments. But thank you all. I will see you Friday night for a great live stream draft with Ryan Bloomfield from Bubba and the Bloom. So, guys, thank you again so much. You have a great night. And as always, keep drafting. Bye.